The black waitress pulled off the Korean Mafia boss's watch aggressively. Minutes later, he thanked her after knowing why she did it. But she didn't know that her life is now going to change. The morning fog rolled thick over Portland's Willamette River, turning the waterfront into something ghostly and surreal. Janelia Morrison watched it through the large windows of River's Edge Cafe, wiping down tables that didn't need wiping, killing time until the morning rush that would arrive in exactly 17 minutes. She'd worked here long enough to know the rhythms, the patterns of people and coffee and routine that made up her days. 26 years old, degree in business management from Portland State that had promised so much and delivered so little. The cafe job was supposed to be temporary. That was 4 years ago. Now it was just what she did, who she was. The girl who brought coffee and forced smiles and pretended she was okay with how small her life had become. "Jen, you're doing that thing again," called Jasmine from behind the espresso machine. Her co-worker and closest friend in Portland, the one person who saw through Janelia's carefully constructed facade of contentment. "What thing?" "The staring out the window like you're in a sad movie thing. What's going on in that head?" Janelia forced a smile. "Nothing. Just tired. Didn't sleep great." "Liar. You've had that look for weeks now. Ever since—" Jasmine's eyes widened slightly, voice dropping. "Ever since he started coming here." She didn't need to specify who he was. There was only one person Jasmine could mean. Baek Sung walked into the cafe at exactly 8:15 a.m., same as he had every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 2 months. 28 years old, Korean, devastatingly handsome in a way that made Janelia's breath catch, despite her best efforts not to notice. He wore expensive suits, today's was charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, and moved with the quiet confidence of someone who expected the world to arrange itself around him. And it did. Other customers instinctively made space. The cafe's usual noise level dropped slightly when he entered. Even Jasmine, who feared nothing and no one, became more careful with her movements when he was present. Because Baek Sung wasn't just another well-dressed businessman, Janelia had figured that out within the first week. It was the small things that gave him away. The two men who always accompanied him, one who sat by the door, one by the window, both watching everything with professional alertness. The way other Korean customers nodded to him with deep respect that bordered on fear. The expensive watch on his wrist that probably cost more than Janelia's yearly salary. The thin scar along his jawline that spoke of violence survived. And the conversations. Always in Korean, always quiet. But Janelia had picked up enough from her Korean language class in college, taken on a whim, dropped when money got tight, to catch fragments. Words like territory and shipment and problem that suggested business conducted in shadows. Baek Sung was dangerous, connected, probably involved in organized crime, though Janelia had no proof beyond instinct and overheard fragments and the way people treated him like someone not to be crossed. She should have been afraid, should have requested not to serve his table, should have kept her distance. Instead, she found herself fascinated. "Good morning, Mr. Baek," Janelia said, approaching his usual corner table with coffee pot in hand and professional smile firmly in place. After 2 months, they'd settled into a comfortable routine. Polite greetings, his order, Americano, black, no sugar, minimal conversation. "Miss Morrison," he replied, and the way he pronounced her name, careful, precise, like he'd practiced, made something flutter in her chest. "Good morning. You look tired today. Are you well?" The observation caught her off guard. "I'm fine. Just didn't sleep great. Can I get your usual? Please." And he hesitated, something unusual flickering across his usually controlled expression. "Perhaps some of those pastries? The cinnamon ones you recommended last week. They were excellent." Warmth bloomed in Janelia's chest. He'd remembered, had tried them, had come back to tell her they were good. Such a small thing, but it felt significant in a way she couldn't quite articulate. "Coming right up." She returned to the counter, hyper-aware of his presence even with her back turned. This was getting ridiculous. She was developing a crush on a man who was almost certainly a criminal, who she'd never had a real conversation with, who existed in a world completely separate from hers. "You're blushing," Jasmine observed quietly. Jen, seriously, you need to be careful. That man is not someone to get involved with. I'm not getting involved with anyone. I'm serving coffee. That's literally my job. Yeah, but you're not serving coffee to the construction worker at table 4 with hard eyes. You're... I don't have hard eyes, Janelia hissed, but she could feel her cheeks heating. And even if I did, nothing's going to happen. We're from completely different worlds. He probably doesn't even see me as anything except the waitress who brings his coffee. But sometimes when Janelia brought his order, she'd catch him watching her with an intensity that suggested otherwise. Like now, she turned with his Americano and pastries and found his dark eyes already on her, tracking her movement with focus that made her pulse quicken. Thank you, Baek Sung said as she set everything down. His fingers brushed hers briefly during the exchange. Probably accidental, but the contact sent electricity up her arm. You're very kind. Just doing my job, Janelia managed, proud that her voice came out steady. No, it's more than that. You remember details, what people like, how they take their coffee. You see people as individuals, not just customers. His smile was small, genuine. That's rare. Before Janelia could respond, one of Baek Sung's men approached the table, the one who usually sat by the door. Kim something, she thought. Mid-30s, serious expression, always alert. He spoke rapidly in Korean, voice low and urgent. Baek Sung's expression shifted immediately from warm to cold and controlled. He responded in Korean, tone clipped, authoritative. Kim nodded and retreated, and Baek Sung turned back to Janelia with an apologetic smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. I apologize, business calls. Thank you for the excellent service, as always. He stood, left cash on the table, always cash, always generous tips that Janelia tried not to think too hard about, and moved toward the exit. His men fell into formation around him, and within moments they were gone. Expensive car pulling away from the curb. Janelia cleared his table, pocketing the tip, trying to ignore the disappointment settling in her chest. Which was stupid. What had she expected? An actual conversation? A connection? The man was clearly important, clearly busy, clearly not interested in a waitress beyond polite pleasantries. You've got it bad, Jasmine said sympathetically. Poor Jen, crushing on the hot mob boss. He's not a mob boss, probably. Maybe. I don't actually know what he does. Whatever he does, it involves expensive suits, dangerous men, and the kind of money that makes our tips look like pocket change. Jasmine squeezed her shoulder. Just be careful, okay? Men like that are complicated, dangerous, no matter how pretty they are. I know, and I'm not getting involved. It's just a harmless crush. It'll pass. But as Janelia worked through her shift, she kept replaying their brief interaction. The way he'd noticed she looked tired, the genuine warmth in his smile, the electricity when their fingers touched. It wasn't going to pass, not anytime soon. Thursday arrived cold and rainy, typical November weather in Portland. Janelia showed up to work early, told herself it had nothing to do with knowing Baek Sung would be there at 8:15, and tried to focus on prep work instead of watching the door. He arrived exactly on time, but something was different today. His usual 2 companions were there, but there was a third man, younger, nervous energy, someone Janelia hadn't seen before. They settled at the corner table, and the new man's body language screamed anxiety. Janelia approached with the coffee pot, professional smile ready. Good morning, Mr. Beck. Your usual? Yes, please. And he glanced at the nervous man. 3 cups today. As Janelia poured, she noticed details. The way the new man avoided eye contact, the tension in Baek Sung's jaw, the careful positioning of his bodyguards, more alert than usual, hands resting casually near their waists in a way that suggested concealed weapons. Something was wrong. Janelia retreated to the counter, but found herself watching the table with growing unease. The new man was talking rapidly in Korean, hands gesturing. Baek Sung listened without expression, occasionally responding in low tones that didn't carry. Then she saw it, the new man glancing at his watch, repeatedly, every 30 seconds or so, checking the time with barely concealed nervousness. Jen, you're staring again, Jasmine murmured. What's wrong? I don't know. Something feels off. That new guy with them, he's nervous. Really nervous. Maybe he works for Mr. Beck. Maybe he's in trouble. Either way, not our business. Jasmine was right. It wasn't their business. Janelia forced herself to focus on other customers, on routine, on anything except the growing knot of anxiety in her stomach. At 8:45, the new man stood suddenly, excusing himself. He headed toward the restroom and Janelia noticed. His coffee was barely touched. He'd been sitting there for 30 minutes, nursing cold coffee, checking his watch, radiating tension. And then his phone rang. Not the usual ringtone, something specific, deliberate. He answered quickly, voice too low for Janelia to hear, and hurried past the restrooms toward the back exit. Every instinct Janelia had, honed by years of reading people, of navigating difficult situations, of trusting her gut when logic said otherwise, screamed danger. She moved toward the back of the cafe casually, like she was checking on something, and positioned herself near the hallway where sound carried from the back exit. The new man was speaking in Korean, voice urgent, and Janelia's limited vocabulary caught fragments. Daram, yes. Replaced. His watch. Explosive. 5 minutes. Her blood turned to ice. Janelia's Korean was basic at best, but those words were clear, universal, terrifying. She peeked around the corner and saw the new man slip out the back exit, phone still pressed to his ear, leaving without a word to Baek Sung. And Baek Sung was still sitting at the table, calmly drinking his coffee, completely unaware that something was catastrophically wrong. Janelia's mind raced. What had she heard? Replaced his watch. Explosive. 5 minutes. But that couldn't be right. That would mean... She looked at Baek Sung's wrist, at the expensive watch gleaming in the cafe's light, and suddenly everything clicked into terrible clarity. The nervous new man, the constant watch checking, the rapid exit immediately after making a phone call, the words replaced in explosive in 5 minutes. Someone had switched Baek Sung's watch with an identical one, a watch with a bomb in it, set to explode in. Janelia glanced at the wall clock. 4 minutes? 3? She didn't think, didn't calculate risk or consequences or the very real possibility that she'd misheard or misunderstood. She just moved. Janelia sprinted across the cafe, ignoring Jasmine's startled call, ignoring the customers turning to stare, focused solely on Baek Sung, who was looking up at her approach with confused surprise. What? She grabbed his wrist, fingers finding the watch clasp, pulling with desperate urgency. Take it off. You have to take it off right now. Miss Morrison, what are you... Baek Sung tried to pull back, confusion and alarm warring in his expression. Your watch. There's a bomb. Janelia's fingers fumbled with the clasp, adrenaline making her clumsy. That man, he replaced it. He said 5 minutes. Please, just let me. Understanding flashed across Baek Sung's face. He stopped resisting immediately, helping her with the clasp with quick, efficient movements. The watch came free, and Janelia didn't hesitate. She turned and ran. Out the front door, across the small plaza, toward the riverbank 20 yards away. Her lungs burned. Time felt elastic, too fast and too slow simultaneously. She reached the railing and threw the watch with everything she had, watched it arc through gray morning air, and disappear into the Willamette's murky water. 2 seconds later, the river erupted. The explosion was muffled by water, but still massive. A column of spray shooting 20 feet into the air, the percussion rattling windows, sending shocked birds scattering into gray sky. Janelia stumbled back from the railing, ears ringing, heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst. Strong hands caught her shoulders, steadied her. Baek Sung, face pale but controlled, eyes blazing with intensity as he looked between her and the settling river. You saved my life, he said quietly, Korean accent thickening with emotion. Janelia, you saved my life. The use of her first name, the raw gratitude in his voice, the way he was looking at her like she was precious, it broke through Janelia's shock. She started shaking, delayed reaction hitting all at once. I heard him, she managed, voice unsteady. The man who was with you. He went to the back exit, made a phone call. I heard... I don't speak much Korean, but I heard replaced watch and explosive in 5 minutes. I thought, I hoped I was wrong, but I couldn't. I had to. You understood correctly, and you acted without hesitation. Baek Sung's hands moved from her shoulders to frame her face, thumbs brushing her cheekbones gently. You ran toward danger to save me. Janelia, do you understand what you just did? Probably something really stupid, she said, and laughed, high and slightly hysterical. Oh my God, there was a bomb. A actual bomb. I threw a bomb in the river. You saved my life, Baek Sung repeated more intensely this time. My driver, Kim Woo-jin. He's been with me for 3 years. I trusted him completely. His jaw clenched, fury and betrayal flashing across his face. This was an inside job. Someone got to him, paid him, or threatened him, or both. Made him switch my watch this morning during our security check. One of his bodyguards approached, speaking rapidly in Korean. Baek Sung responded without releasing Janelia, his tone sharp and commanding. The bodyguard nodded and moved away quickly, phone already to his ear. I have to go, Baek Sung said, returning his attention to Janelia. I have to handle this. Find Woo Jin before he gets far. Deal with whoever's behind this attack. But Janelia, he paused, seeming to struggle with words. I owe you everything, my life. And I always pay my debts. You don't owe me anything. I couldn't let someone die. Not when I could stop it. Not someone. Me. His thumb brushed her cheek again, the touch achingly gentle. You risked yourself for me specifically, without knowing who I am, what I do, whether I'm worth saving. That's... He trailed off, searching her face like he was trying to memorize every detail. That's extraordinary. Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Someone had called about the explosion. Baek Sung glanced toward the sound, calculation crossing his face. I'll handle the authorities. Make sure you're not involved, not questioned. This is my world, my problem. He released her reluctantly, already stepping back toward his car. But I'll come back. Tomorrow. We need to talk properly. There are things you should know. Things I need to tell you. Baek Sung. Tomorrow, he said firmly. I promise. And Janelia, thank you. For seeing danger and acting. For being brave. For saving me when you had every reason to walk away. Then he was gone. Car pulling away seconds before the first police cruiser arrived. And Janelia was left standing by the river, shaking with adrenaline come down, trying to process what had just happened. She'd saved someone's life. She'd thrown an actual bomb into a river. And Baek Sung, dangerous, mysterious, undeniably criminal Baek Sung, had looked at her like she was the most important person in the world. Holy shit, Jasmine breathed, appearing at her elbow. Jenner, holy shit, did that actually? I threw a bomb in the river, Janelia said numbly. There was a bomb and I threw it in the river and it exploded. You're a hero. You're an actual hero. Jasmine hugged her tightly. But also you're insane. Completely insane. Who runs toward a bomb? Someone who can't stand by and watch people die, Janelia whispered, and realized with crystal clarity that her life had just changed irrevocably. She'd saved Baek Sung's life. And tomorrow when he came back, everything would be different. The police questioned everyone at the cafe. Janelia told a carefully edited version. She'd seen something suspicious being thrown in the river. The explosion had surprised everyone. No, she didn't know who was responsible. The officers seemed satisfied, more concerned with the explosion itself than the young waitress who'd witnessed it. Baek Sung had kept his promise, protected her from involvement, made the problem disappear in ways that suggested significant influence with local authorities. You should go home, as the cafe owner, Mr. Chen, said after the police left. Take the rest of the day. Hell, take tomorrow too. You've been through a trauma. But Janelia found herself shaking her head. I'm okay. I'd rather work. Keep busy. What she didn't say, I need to be here tomorrow when Baek Sung comes back. The rest of the shift passed in a blur of concerned customers and repeated assurances that she was fine. Jasmine hovered protectively, running interference. And by closing time, Janelia was exhausted, physically, emotionally, completely drained. She walked home in the rain, mind replaying everything on loop. The desperate sprint to the river. Beck Sung's hands framing her face. The explosion. The way he'd said her name, Janelia, like it mattered. Her apartment felt too small, too quiet. Janelia made tea she didn't drink, attempted dinner she couldn't eat, and finally collapsed into bed where sleep absolutely refused to come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the watch arcing into the river, heard the explosion, felt Beck Sung's touch on her face. At 2 a.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number, but somehow she knew. The message was simple. I can't sleep. Can't stop thinking about what you did today, about how you didn't hesitate. Thank you doesn't begin to cover it, but thank you anyway. I'll see you tomorrow. Beek Sung. Janelia stared at the message, heart doing complicated things in her chest. She shouldn't respond. Should maintain distance, remember that this man was dangerous, that his world had bombs and betrayal and violence. But her fingers moved anyway, typing, I can't sleep either. Keep replaying it. Are you safe? Did you find your driver? His response came immediately. I'm safe. Driver is handled. Problem eliminated. You don't need to worry about retaliation or danger. I've made sure of it. Handled. Eliminated. Words that probably meant things Janelia didn't want to think too hard about. She typed, I'm not sure what to say. This is all very surreal. I know, and I promise tomorrow I'll explain everything. Who I am, what I do, why someone wanted me dead. You deserve the truth after saving my life. You don't owe me explanations. I do. Because Janelia, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you for 2 months. And today, when you ran toward danger for me, it confirmed everything I'd been feeling. You're extraordinary, and I want you to know exactly who it is you saved. Janelia's breath caught. He'd been thinking about her. For 2 months. The same 2 months she'd been hyper-aware of every time he walked into the cafe, of every small interaction, of the way her heart raced when he smiled. This is complicated, she typed. I know. But can we talk about it tomorrow? Face to face? Please? Okay. Tomorrow. Thank you. Sleep well, Janelia. Dream of anything except exploding watches. Despite everything, she smiled. I'll try. You too. Difficult when all I want to dream about is you. And with that devastating final message, he went silent. Janelia lay in the darkness, phone clutched to her chest, and finally drifted into sleep filled with dark eyes and gentle touches, and the terrifying certainty that her life would never be the same. Friday morning arrived gray and cold. Janelia got ready for work with shaking hands, changed outfits 3 times, told herself this was ridiculous. It wasn't a date, it was a conversation. She was being absurd. But she wore her favorite jeans and the blue sweater that brought out her eyes anyway, just in case. The cafe was subdued when she arrived, yesterday's explosion still hanging in the air. Mr. Chen looked relieved when she walked in. Janelia, I'm glad you're here. Wasn't sure you'd come back after everything. I'm okay, really. Mostly true. She was functional, at least. Jasmine pulled her aside immediately. So, Mr. Dangerous and Hot sent you home yesterday looking like you'd seen God. What happened after the police left? Nothing happened. He left. Handled things. Handled things. Jen, that man made a bomb investigation disappear in like an hour. That's not normal, handling things. Jasmine's expression was serious. Are you sure you want to get mixed up in whatever his world is? I don't know, but he's coming back today. To talk. To explain. And you're going to listen. I saved his life, Jazz. I think I at least deserve to know who I saved. Jasmine sighed. Just be careful. I've got a bad feeling about this. Good feelings too, but mostly bad. Complicated feelings. Me too. But I have to see where this goes. The morning crawled. Every time the door opened, Janelia's heart jumped. But it wasn't until 10 a.m., different from his usual time, throwing her off, that Beck Sung finally walked in. He was alone this time. No bodyguards, no driver, just him in dark jeans and a leather jacket that made him look younger, more approachable, somehow more dangerous. And the way he looked at Janelia when their eyes met, intense, searching, full of something that made her breath catch. He approached the counter directly instead of taking a table. Janelia, can we talk? Somewhere private? I'm working. Take your break, Mr. Chen called from the kitchen, making Janelia jump. Take an hour. You've earned it. So apparently everyone in the cafe knew about this situation. Great. Janelia grabbed her coat, trying to ignore Jasmine's meaningful look, and followed Baek Sung outside. He led her to the riverbank, scene of yesterday's explosion, now calm and peaceful like nothing had happened. I'm sorry for the dramatic location, Baek Sung said, staring at the water, but this feels appropriate. The place where you saved my life. You said you'd explain who you are. What's going on? I did. He turned to face her, fully, expression serious. My name is Baek Sung Min. I'm the head of the Baek family, Korean organized crime operation based in Portland. We control territory in the International District, run protection services, manage various legal and illegal enterprises. He said it so matter-of-factly, no hedging or euphemism, just brutal honesty. So you're the mob, Korean Mafia. Yes, I took over the family business 3 years ago when my father died. I've been trying to transition us toward more legitimate operations, but that takes time, and it makes enemies, people who preferred the old ways, rivals who see change as weakness. Like whoever tried to kill you yesterday. Exactly. The Chen family, a rival organization, has been pushing into our territory for months. They bribed my driver, convinced him to switch my watch with an identical one containing a small but lethal explosive. It would have killed me and anyone within 10 feet. His eyes held hers, including you, if you'd been nearby when it detonated. The casual mention of her potential death made Janelia's stomach flip. But you found him, your driver. We did, and he confirmed everything. Who paid him, how much, what the plan was. Baek Sung's expression went cold. He's been dealt with. The Chen family received a very clear message about what happens when you target me or anyone I care about. Dealt with, Janelia repeated. You mean killed? I mean removed as a threat. Permanently. No apology in his voice, no softening. This is my world, Janelia. Violence is currency. Mercy is weakness. I'm not a good man by conventional standards. Then why are you telling me this? Why not just, let me think you're a regular businessman. Keep the ugliness hidden? Because you deserve the truth. Because I'm attracted to you. Have been since the first time you smiled at me 2 months ago. And because yesterday, when you ran toward danger for me, I realized something. He stepped closer, voice dropping. I want you in my life, really in it. And that means you need to know exactly who I am. Janelia's heart hammered. Baek Sung, I'm not asking for an answer now. I'm just being honest. You saved my life. You're brave and kind and you see people, really see them, in a way most don't. I've been half in love with you for months and yesterday made me certain. His hand reached up, not quite touching her face, but close. But my world is dangerous. Dating me means accepting that danger, that violence, that moral complexity. So I'm giving you the choice. Walk away now and I'll never bother you again. Or give me a chance. Let me take you to dinner, show you that I'm more than just the criminal. Let me prove that what I feel is real and worth the risk. This was insane. Janelia knew it was insane. This man had just admitted to murder, to running criminal operations, to living in a world of bombs and betrayal. But she also remembered his gentle touch yesterday, the way he'd noticed she looked tired, his genuine gratitude and vulnerability, the text messages at 2 a.m. admitting he couldn't stop thinking about her. One dinner, she heard herself say. You get one dinner to convince me this isn't the worst idea I've ever had. Baek Sung's smile was brilliant, transforming his entire face. One dinner, I'll make it count. Tomorrow night, I'll pick you up. I'll meet you somewhere. I'm not giving you my address until I'm sure I'm not making a terrible mistake. Fair. Smart even. He pulled out his phone. Give me your number. I'll send you the details. They exchanged numbers and Janelia tried not to think about how momentous it felt. how much she was risking, how absolutely terrified and exhilarated she was. Janelia, Beck Sung said as she turned to go, thank you for yesterday, for today, for giving me a chance I probably don't deserve. Don't make me regret it. I'll spend every day trying not to. His expression turned serious. And Janelia, you're under my protection now, whether you decide to see me or not. Anyone who tries to use you to get to me will regret it. You're safe, I promise. The declaration should have felt possessive, controlling. Instead, it felt like a vow, like safety she hadn't realized she needed. Janelia walked back to the cafe in a daze. Jasmine's knowing look, Mr. Chen's carefully neutral expression. She had a date tomorrow night with a criminal who'd admitted to murder and looked at her like she was precious. This was either the bravest or stupidest thing she'd ever done. Time would tell which. The text came at 6 p.m., Harborside Restaurant. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., dress code is smart casual, but you'd look beautiful in anything. Sung Janelia stared at her phone, heart doing complicated gymnastics. Harborside was one of Portland's most expensive restaurants. Waterfront views, celebrity chef, reservations booked months in advance. The kind of place she'd only read about in the Willamette Week's food reviews. That place is really fancy, she texted back. I'm a waitress. I don't exactly have a closet full of designer clothes. His response was immediate. You could show up in your work uniform and still be the most beautiful woman there. But if you want something new, I can... Don't you dare offer to buy me clothes. I'll figure it out. I wouldn't dream of it. See you tomorrow, Janelia. I'm already counting the hours. You're smiling at your phone like a teenager, Jasmine observed, appearing at her elbow. He texted you. Harborside, tomorrow night. Jasmine's eyes widened. Harborside? Jen, that place is like $200 a plate. He's really pulling out all the stops. I don't have anything to wear to a place like that. Yes, you do. That black dress from your cousin's wedding? The one you never wear because you say it's too fancy for your life. Jasmine grinned. Guess what? Your life just got fancy enough. That night, Janelia tried on the dress. Sleek, elegant, hitting just above the knee with a neckline that was sophisticated without being revealing. She'd bought it 2 years ago for her cousin Maya's wedding, worn it once, and relegated it to the back of her closet because where would she ever wear something so nice again? Now, studying her reflection, she barely recognized herself. The dress transformed her from waitress to woman who belonged in expensive restaurants. Her natural hair was styled in careful twists. She'd practiced with makeup until it looked natural but elevated. You look stunning, her roommate Keisha said from the doorway. Like seriously, Jen, if this mob boss doesn't fall to his knees when he sees you, he's blind. He's not a mob boss, he's... Janelia caught herself. Okay, he's totally a mob boss. This is insane. I'm going on a date with a criminal. A hot criminal who almost died and is clearly obsessed with you. Keisha sat on the bed. Look, I know this is scary, but Jen, you've been going through the motions for 4 years. This is the first time I've seen you actually excited about something. Maybe it's stupid, maybe it's dangerous, but maybe it's also exactly what you need. What if he's just grateful? What if this fades once the "you saved my life" glow wears off? Then you'll have had an adventure and some expensive dinners. But Jen, I saw how you talked about him even before the bomb thing. This isn't just him being grateful. You've been interested for months. True. Dangerously true. Saturday evening arrived too quickly and not fast enough. Janelia took a rideshare to Harborside, still refusing to give Beck Sung her address, maintaining some boundary of safety even as she was actively walking into his world. The restaurant was everything she'd imagined and more. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Willamette. White tablecloths, soft lighting. The kind of elegant atmosphere that made you want to whisper. And there, standing by the host station in a perfectly tailored navy suit, was Beck Sung. He turned as she entered, and the way his expression transformed, from composed to awestruck, made every minute she'd spent getting ready worthwhile. Janelia, he breathed, crossing to her immediately. I don't have adequate words. Breathtaking doesn't begin to cover it. Heat flooded her cheeks. You clean up pretty well yourself. I try. His smile was warm, genuine. None of the dangerous edge from yesterday. Tonight he looked like any other successful young businessman taking a woman on a date. Shall we? They were led to a private corner table, still with the view, but separated from other diners by elegant partitions that created intimacy. Beck Sung held her chair, and Janelia noticed details. The way he moved, graceful and controlled. The deference of the staff, suggesting he was known here. The careful positioning that put his back to the wall and let him see the entire restaurant. You're very observant, she said as they settled. Survival skill. In my world, not paying attention gets you killed. He caught himself, winced. Sorry. I promised myself I wouldn't talk about that tonight. This is supposed to be normal, a regular date. Can we be normal when we both know what you are? Maybe not normal, but we can be honest, real. Baeksang leaned forward. Tell me about yourself. Real things, not just small talk. I want to know who you are beyond the woman who brings me coffee. So Janelia talked about growing up in Atlanta, her close-knit family, moving to Portland for college, and staying because she'd fallen in love with the city. About her business degree and the dream she'd had of opening her own cafe someday. A community space, not just a business. Somewhere people felt welcome. Why haven't you? Baeksang asked. Opened your own place? Money. Startup costs are insane and I'm still drowning in student loans. Plus it's scary. What if I fail? What if I put everything into it and it doesn't work? What if it does work? What if you build something amazing? You sound like my mother. She's always telling me to take risks, stop playing it safe. Mothers are usually right. Baeksang's expression softened. Mine was. She used to say that fear of failure was just another form of failure. That regret for not trying hurt worse than trying and failing. Used to say. She died when I was 19. Cancer. Old pain flickered across his face. My father followed 3 years ago. Heart attack. Which is how I ended up running everything at 25. That's so young. To lose both parents and suddenly be responsible for. Janelia gestured vaguely, meaning the criminal empire. It was. Still is, honestly. Some days I wake up and think I have no idea what I'm doing. But my father prepared me, trained me from childhood to take over. Korean Mafia isn't something you choose, it's inherited. A family business in the most literal sense. Do you ever wish you could walk away? Do something else? Baeksang was quiet for a long moment, studying his wine glass. Every day, but it's not that simple. I have people depending on me. Families whose livelihood comes from our operations, businesses we protect, territory we control. Walking away would create a power vacuum, violence, chaos. People would get hurt. So you're trapped. I'm responsible. There's a difference. He met her eyes. But I am working toward change, transitioning the family business toward legitimate operations, finding legal ways to support the community, building something I won't be ashamed to leave to future generations. Future generations, Janelia repeated. You want kids someday? I do. A family, normal life, all the things that seem impossible right now. His expression turned intense. But I'm starting to believe impossible might just be difficult. That with the right person, the right reason, change becomes achievable. The weight of his gaze, the implication in his words, made Janelia's pulse race. Baeksang. Call me Sung, please. When it's just us, I want to be Sung. Not the boss, not the heir, just me. Sung, Janelia tested the name, liking how it felt. This is moving really fast. 3 days ago, you were just the attractive man who came to my cafe. Now I'm having dinner with you, learning about your criminal empire, talking about futures and change. It's overwhelming. I know, and if you want to slow down, we will. But Janelia, I've wasted too much of my life being careful, being strategic, putting business before everything else. When someone tries to kill you with a bomb, it clarifies things, makes you realize that tomorrow isn't guaranteed. He reached across the table, not quite touching her hand but close. I don't want to waste time pretending I don't feel what I feel, but I'll go as slow as you need. As long as you give me the chance. Janelia looked at his hand, hovering near hers, offering connection without demanding it. Such a small gesture, but it said everything about who he was, powerful enough to take what he wanted, choosing instead to ask. She closed the distance, lacing her fingers through his. The contact sent electricity up her arm, and Sung's sharp inhale suggested he felt it too. One step at a time, she said, but I'm willing to see where this goes. His smile could have lit the entire city. One step at a time. I can work with that. They talked through dinner, 4 courses that Janelia barely tasted, too caught up in conversation that ranged from serious to surprisingly funny. Sung had a dry wit that caught her off guard, a self-deprecating humor that seemed at odds with his position. So there I was, he said, laughing. 25 years old, first day officially running the organization, trying to look authoritative. And my father's oldest advisor, Kim Dae-jung, 70 years old, terrifying, just looked at me and said, "Your tie is crooked," in front of everyone. Janelia giggled. What did you do? Fixed my tie and thanked him for the feedback. What else could I do? He was right, and it taught me an important lesson. Respect doesn't come from pretending to be perfect. It comes from being competent and humble enough to accept help. That's actually really wise. Kim Dae-jung is the wisest man I know. He's kept me from making so many mistakes. Sung's expression grew fond. He actually asked about you. About me? Why? Because the whole organization knows you saved my life. And because, he paused, seeming to choose words carefully, because I've never brought a woman to meet anyone before. Never talked about someone the way I apparently talk about you. Kim says I've been insufferably distracted for 2 months. You talk about me? Constantly, apparently. To the point where my men are placing bets on when I'll actually ask you out properly. Sung's cheeks colored slightly. This is embarrassing to admit. It's adorable, Janelia said before she could stop herself, then blushed furiously. I mean, adorable? The head of Korean organized crime is adorable. But Sung was grinning, clearly pleased. I'll take it. Better than terrifying. You're that too, sometimes, when you go all cold and commanding. And which do you prefer? Both, Janelia admitted. The dangerous part is interesting. But this, she gestured between them, this Sung who blushes and tells embarrassing stories and looks at me like I'm precious. This is the part I'm falling for. The words hung between them, more honest than Janelia had intended. Sung's expression transformed, wonder and heat and something tender that made her breath catch. Say that again, he requested quietly. Which part? The falling for me part. Janelia's heart hammered. I'm falling for you. Probably have been for months, if I'm honest. I just didn't let myself acknowledge it because you were this untouchable, dangerous man who I assumed would never notice me. Janelia. Sung stood, moving around the table to kneel beside her chair. Not proposing, just bringing himself to her eye level. I noticed you the first day you served me coffee. You smiled like you actually meant it, like you saw me as a person instead of a position. And I've been captivated ever since. He cupped her face gently, thumbs brushing her cheekbones. I'm falling for you too. Hard. Have been for weeks. And when you saved my life, when you ran toward danger without hesitation, it just confirmed what I already knew. You're extraordinary, and I want to spend every day proving I'm worthy of you. Sung. He kissed her, soft, sweet, asking permission with every movement, and Janelia kissed him back, tasting wine and promise and the beginning of something that terrified and exhilarated her in equal measure. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Sung rested his forehead against hers. I'm going to court you properly. Old-fashioned, traditional courtship. Dates and flowers and taking it slow. Because you deserve that. You deserve everything. What if I don't want slow? The words escaped before Janelia could stop them. Heat flared in Sung's eyes. Then we'll figure out fast together. But tonight I'm taking you home. Your choice whether you tell me where that is, and we're doing this right. No rushing, no pressure, just building something real. You're very determined. I'm very certain. About you, about us, about the fact that you're going to be the most important person in my life. He stood, offering his hand. Come on, Let me take you home. Janelia gave him her address. That felt significant. A boundary crossed, a trust extended. Sung drove her himself in a car that was nice but not ostentatious, and the ride passed in comfortable conversation about everything and nothing. At her building, he walked her to the door like a gentleman from another era. Under the porch light, he took her hands gently. Can I see you again? Soon? Tomorrow? His smile was brilliant. Tomorrow. I'll pick you up at 2. There's somewhere I want to show you. Somewhere dangerous? Somewhere meaningful. Trust me. Genelia thought about everything, the bombs and the crime and the very real danger. Then thought about his gentle touch, his honest vulnerability, the way he looked at her like she mattered. I trust you. Tomorrow at 2. Sung kissed her forehead gently. Thank you for tonight, for giving this a chance, for being exactly who you are. Thank you for seeing me, really seeing me. Always get some sleep, Janelia. Dream of good things. You too, Sung. She watched him drive away, then floated up to her apartment, where Keisha was waiting with eager questions and knowing smiles. And that night, for the first time in years, Janelia dreamed of futures that seemed possible instead of impossible. Sunday afternoon, Sung picked her up in casual clothes, jeans, leather jacket, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. Where are we going? Janelia asked as they drove out of the city. My mother's grave. I visit every Sunday. He glanced at her, slightly nervous. I want you to meet her. In a way. The cemetery was peaceful, rolling hills with old trees and careful landscaping. Sung led her to a plot with an elegant headstone, Korean characters alongside English. Park Yoon-ju, beloved mother and wife, 1965-2014. Hi, Mom, Sung said quietly, kneeling to place fresh flowers. I brought someone special to meet you. Janelia, He paused, emotion thickening his voice. She's everything you always hoped I'd find. Brave and kind and doesn't take any of my nonsense. Janelia knelt beside him, oddly touched by this intimacy. Your mother would be proud of you. The way you're trying to change things, make the business better. I hope so. She hated the violence. Used to beg my father to find another way. Sung traced his mother's name on the headstone. She died believing I'd be trapped in this life forever. I want to prove her wrong. Want to build something she'd actually be proud of. Tell me about her. And Sung did. For the next hour, sitting by his mother's grave, he shared stories. Her laugh, her cooking, her fierce protection of her family, her volunteer work helping immigrant families navigate American systems. Janelia watched him transform, the dangerous boss becoming a grieving son who clearly still missed his mother desperately. She would have loved you, Sung said finally. Would have pulled you into the kitchen, fed you too much, demanded to know all your secrets. He smiled through obvious tears. And she would have been so happy that someone finally saw me as more than just the heir to a criminal empire. Janelia took his hand, laced their fingers together. Thank you for bringing me here, for sharing this with me. Thank you for understanding why it matters. He stood, pulling her up with him. Come on, one more stop. They drove to a building under renovation in Portland's International District. This, Sung said as they walked through, is going to be a community center, legal services, job training, youth programs, ESL classes, everything my mother used to dream about providing. You're building this? With your money? With money from legitimate businesses? Yes. It's part of my transition plan. Take the resources we've built and channel them toward actually helping the community instead of exploiting it. He looked around the construction site with obvious pride. This is what I want my legacy to be. Not violence and crime, but positive change. How long until it opens? 6 months, maybe. We're still finalizing programs, hiring staff. He turned to face her directly. I want you to be part of it. Me? Sung, I'm a waitress. You have a business degree, management experience, people skills, and most importantly, you actually care about helping people. His eyes were intense. I need someone to run the community programs, someone I trust, who shares the vision, who won't compromise values for convenience. That's you. Janelia's head spun. This is a lot. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you an opportunity to build something meaningful, to use your education the way you intended, to make a real difference. He stepped closer. And yes, it means you'd be in my life more, working with me. But Janelia, this isn't about us. This is about you having the chance to do what you're meant to do. I need time to think about it. Of course, no pressure. The offer stands regardless of what happens between us personally. But his eyes held hope that suggested he very much wanted both, her professionally and personally. Over the next 3 weeks, they fell into a pattern. Sung took her to dinners, museums, late-night walks along the river. Always perfect gentleman, never pushing for more than she was ready for, but making his interest abundantly clear. And slowly, Janelia felt her walls coming down. She met his organization, Kim Dae-jung, the wise advisor who assessed her with sharp eyes and declared her suitable in a tone that suggested high praise. His security team, who treated her with careful respect. Even his younger sister Ji-won, visiting from Seoul, who took one look at Janelia and said, "Finally someone who can handle Appa." And Janelia introduced him to her world, Jasmine and Keisha, who were initially suspicious but warmed when they saw how Sung looked at their friend. Her parents via video call to Atlanta, who were concerned but couldn't deny the happiness in their daughter's voice. Her cafe family, who already knew him but saw him differently now, as Janelia's boyfriend rather than just the mysterious customer, because that's what he'd become. Officially, after the third date when Sung had asked if he could call her his girlfriend, and Janelia had said yes while her heart did somersaults. But it wasn't all romantic dinners and sweet moments. Reality intruded in dangerous ways. 4 weeks into their relationship, Janelia got a threatening phone call, male voice accented, telling her that Beck's whore should watch her back. She'd hung up shaking, immediately called Sung, and within an hour had a full security detail. "This is what I was afraid of," she said as Sung checked her apartment for threats. "That your enemies would come after me to get to you." "They will, they are." Sung's jaw was tight with controlled fury. "Which is why you're moving. Tonight. Either to a secure apartment I own or—" He hesitated. "You could stay with me, at my place, where I can personally ensure your safety." "Move in with you?" "Sung, we've been dating a month. I know it's fast. I know it's not ideal. But Janelia, I can't risk you. Can't sleep knowing you're vulnerable here." He took her hands. "Not as my girlfriend. As someone I'm falling in love with. Please, let me protect you." Falling in love. He'd said it. Not quite, "I love you," but close enough to make her heart stop. "Okay," she heard herself say, "but I'm keeping my apartment, and this is temporary, just until things settle." However you want to frame it. But his relief was palpable. She moved into Sung's penthouse that night, and despite the circumstances, it felt right. Natural. Like they'd been building toward this all along. Living together accelerated everything. Janelia saw Sung in the morning, hair mussed, making coffee in pajama pants that humanized him completely. Saw him handle crisis calls with cold efficiency, then turned to her with warmth that was reserved only for her. Saw the man behind the boss, vulnerable, trying so hard to be worthy, carrying the weight of the world but lighter when she was around. 2 months in, over breakfast, Sung said, "I'm stepping back from the family business." Janelia nearly choked on her coffee. "What?" "Not immediately. It'll take a year, maybe 2, but I'm transitioning leadership to Kim Dae-jung's son. He's been my second for years, ready to take over. I'll maintain advisory role, help with legitimate operations. But the criminal side?" He shook his head. "I'm done. I want a different life." "Sung, you don't have to do this for me. I'm doing it for us. For the future I want with you. For the family I hope we'll have someday." He took her hand across the table. "I've been planning this for months, but meeting you made it urgent. Made me realize that the life I want, the one with you in it, isn't compatible with running a criminal organization." Tears burned Janelia's eyes. "You're really doing this. Walking away." "I'm walking towards something better. Toward you, toward the community center, and legitimate business, and maybe someday kids who don't inherit a criminal empire. His thumb brushed her knuckles. If you'll have me for that future. Are you asking what I think you're asking? Not yet. When I propose, and I will propose, make no mistake, it'll be properly. Ring, speech, the whole thing. But I'm asking if you can see that future. With me. Despite where I've been and what I've done. Janelia looked at this man who'd been dangerous and was choosing to be different. Who loved her enough to change his entire life. Who made her believe in possibilities she'd stopped dreaming about. I can see it, she said. I want it. All of it. With you. The proposal came 6 months later at the community center's grand opening. Janelia had taken the job, community programs director, and poured her heart into making it amazing. And on opening day, with hundreds of people celebrating, Sung pulled her aside to the rooftop. I have something for you, he said, pulling out a small box. Janelia's breath caught. Sung. Janelia Morrison. He dropped to one knee and she started crying immediately. You saved my life 10 months ago, and every day since, you've saved it again by being exactly who you are. You made me want to be better, made me believe I could change, made me dream of futures beyond survival. He opened the box, revealing a ring that was stunning. Simple elegance, not ostentatious despite what she knew he could afford. Marry me. Build this life with me. Have babies with me. Grow old with me. Let me spend the rest of my life proving that pulling a bomb off my wrist was the best decision you ever made. Yes, Janelia sobbed. Yes, yes, absolutely yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, stood, kissed her like she was oxygen, and Portland's skylines sparkled around them like the universe was celebrating too. They married 6 months later in a ceremony that blended Korean and African American traditions beautifully. Sung's organization attended in force, looking uncomfortable in formal wear, but genuine in their happiness. Janelia's family flew in from Atlanta, her mother crying through the entire ceremony, her father grudgingly admitting that the boy seems to genuinely love you. He does, Janelia had assured them, more than I thought possible. The wedding was beautiful, but Janelia's favorite moment was after. Just her and Sung in the car, driving away from the reception, married and hopeful and completely in love. We did it, Sung said, lacing his fingers through hers. You're officially stuck with me now. Best decision I ever made. After throwing that watch in the river, obviously. He laughed, pulled her close. My wife, my extraordinary, brave, perfect wife. Your wife who's going to hold you to that stepping back from crime promise. Already done. Handed off leadership last month, remember? I'm officially retired from the family business. Just a boring community center director and real estate investor now. You're many things, Park Sung-min. Boring isn't one of them. 2 years later, Janelia discovered she was pregnant. She told Sung at the community center, in the office they now shared, and watched his face transform from shock to wonder to pure joy. A baby, he breathed, hand moving to her still flat stomach. We're having a baby. Are you happy? I know we said we'd wait. Happy doesn't begin to cover it. He pulled her into his arms. Janelia, you're giving me everything I never thought I'd have. A wife I adore, a child, a legitimate life. You've transformed everything. Their daughter was born 7 months later. Park Yoon-ji, named for Sung's mother. Tiny, perfect, with Janelia's eyes and Sung's determination even at 3 days old. She's perfect, Sung whispered, holding his daughter with a gentleness that made Janelia's heart swell. Thank you. For this. For her. For us. 18 months later, their son arrived. Park Jin-ho, named for Sung's father, and their family was complete. 5 years after that first explosive meeting, Janelia stood in their backyard watching Sung play with their children. He was 41 now, completely removed from his criminal past, running the community center full-time alongside her. No more threats, no more violence, just life. What are you thinking? Sung asked, approaching with Jin-ho on his shoulders and Yoon-ji holding his hand. That pulling a watch off your wrist was definitely the best impulse decision I've ever made. He kissed her softly. Best thing that ever happened to me. You saved my life that day, and you've saved it every day since by being exactly who you are. Papa, you're being mushy again, Yoonji complained. It's gross. Sung laughed, scooped up his daughter. One day you'll understand, when you're much, much older and we've thoroughly vetted whoever you're dating. So never, Jinho piped up. You said you'd never think anyone was good enough for Nuna. Smart boy. Sung kissed his son's head. No one is good enough, except maybe someone who saves her from a bomb. That might earn approval. Janelia laughed, watching her family. This impossible, beautiful family built from a moment of crazy courage and a watch thrown into a river. I love you, she said. All of you. This life. Everything we built. I love you more, Sung replied. My extraordinary wife who saw danger and ran toward it, who saved my life and then made it worth living. Their children groaned at the continued mushiness, but Janelia and Sung just laughed, caught up in the miracle of ordinary moments made precious by how easily they could have never happened. Because sometimes life changes in seconds. A watch replaced, a bomb planted, a waitress who heard danger and acted. And sometimes those seconds lead to decades of love and laughter and the most beautiful ordinary life imaginable. Janelia had saved Sung's life 10 years ago. But the truth was, he'd saved hers too. Reminded her that she was brave, capable, extraordinary. That love was real and worth fighting for. That futures could be built from the most unlikely beginnings. As they headed inside for dinner, their noisy, chaotic, perfect family, Janelia caught sight of the photo on the mantel. The watch recovered from the river months after the explosion, encased in glass with a plaque. The moment that changed everything. Still the most dramatic meet-cute ever, Keisha had said when they'd put it up. Definitely the most explosive, Jasmine had agreed. But Janelia preferred to think of it as the beginning, the moment when she'd been brave enough to trust her instincts and everything good in her life had followed. Later that night, after the children were asleep, Sung pulled her close on the couch. Do you ever regret it? Taking the risk on me? All the danger and complications? Never. Not once. Janelia kissed him softly. You were worth every risk. This life is worth everything. Even the bomb? Especially the bomb. Without it, you'd never have known how I felt. We might have stayed in polite customer waitress territory forever. I'd have found a way, eventually. Probably would have just asked you out directly instead of dying first, but they laughed together and Janelia thought about alternative timelines. Versions where she hadn't heard that phone call, where Sung had died, where they'd never found each other. Those versions felt hollow, impossible, wrong. This was the right timeline, the one where love bloomed from bombs and danger, and a waitress brave enough to pull a watch off a stranger's wrist. I'm glad you didn't die, she whispered. Me too. Very glad. He tightened his arms around her. Thank you, Janelia, for seeing danger and acting, for giving us this life, for being my everything. Thank you for being worth saving, for changing, for building this with me. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that came from years together and certainty that they'd spend all their remaining years the same way, together, grateful, ridiculously in love. Outside, Portland's lights sparkled. The same river where a bomb had exploded flowed peacefully. The cafe where they'd met still served coffee to strangers who might be falling in love without knowing it yet. And in their home, Park Sung-min and Janelia Morrison, former crime boss and brave waitress, held each other close and marveled at how a single moment of courage could change absolutely everything. Because sometimes the watch you pull off someone's wrist saves more than just their life. Sometimes it saves your own. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, it leads to love that lasts a lifetime. The end epilogue. 20 years later, Eunji would tell the story at her parents' anniversary party. Mom literally threw a bomb in a river to save Dad. That's the most badass meet-cute in history. And Janelia and Sung would laugh, still holding hands after decades together, and agree that yes, it had been dramatic, dangerous, absolutely insane, but also perfect. Because the best love stories start with courage. The courage to act, to trust, to risk everything for someone you barely know, but somehow recognize as yours. The watch is still sat on the mantel, a reminder of the day everything changed. And beside it, photos chronicled the life they'd built. Wedding, babies, grandchildren, decades of ordinary, extraordinary love. Worth it? Sung would ask. Same question he'd been asking for 20 years. Every single second, Janelia would reply. Same answer she'd been giving just as long. Because some risks are worth taking. Some moments change everything. And some explosive beginnings lead to the most beautiful, peaceful endings. The watch that almost killed him had led to the life that saved them both. And wasn't that just perfect?